To be a senator in the Roman Empire was a highly prestigious role, but unlike what you may expect, not everything about their life was as easy as it sounds, and they often acted more like a slave than a senator. However, before we discuss this, let's take a look at the early hours of a Roman senator's day. He started off with a special ritual, putting on his toga. This was not just a piece of clothing, but a symbol of his position and importance. Made of white cloth, it was embroidered with a purple sash, representing his high social status. Introduced by Emperor Augustus, this sash was a daily reminder of the senator's responsibilities and the respect his position required. Assisted by his slaves, the senator also put on his brown shoes and a unique iron ring, which was another symbol of his class. On leaving the house, the senator was never alone. His lictors, bodyguards with clubs or axes, followed him closely. These men were more than just mere guards, they symbolized the senator's authority. In a busy city like Rome, where the forum and the streets were crowded with plebeians and patricians, the lictor's constant presence served as a reminder that the power of life and death was in the aristocrat's hands. Depending on his disposition, the senator could choose to parade through the city in a litter, a sort of box lined with cushions, carried by 6 slaves. This means of transport was not only comfortable, but also a status symbol, as it allowed the senator to survey the Roman streets from a lofty position, literally above the crowds. Shortly afterwards, the senator would likely attend to his clients. These were not like today's customers, but people who depended on the senator to solve legal and social problems. They could settle legal matters about marriage, dowries, business, or even divorces. Even if the law forbade senators from getting directly involved in commercial businesses, their influence in these areas was undeniable. Besides clients, there were also amici, magistrate friends, who looked to the senator for support. Roman politics was often an ongoing exchange of favors, and saying manus manum lavat, one hand washes the other, was very commonly heard. A favor done today could ensure support in an important vote in the future. The senator thus began his day dealing with the mechanics of Roman politics, where alliances had to be nurtured and loyalty always confirmed. After dealing with his clients and amici, the senator would head to the Forum, the true center of Rome. There was a large hall where the senators met, called the Temple of Concord, and the senator would attend deliberations on laws, policies, and other crucial issues for the empire. He had to be prepared at all times to debate, persuade, and, when necessary, cajole his co-senators. For a Roman senator, attending these meetings was not only a duty, but an opportunity to testify his worth, influence, and loyalty to the emperor. Senate meetings began at dawn. A magistrate, generally a consul, was in charge of convening the Senate. This summons was not an invitation, but a compulsory order, binding the senators to attend. The Senate, consisting of 300 to 500 members, acted as an advisory council, but with an influence that could often surpass that of the magistrates. Serving for life, the senators were savvy veterans of Roman politics, and their words could set the direction of the empire. Although the Senate could meet inside or outside the formal city limits, gatherings could never take place more than a mile from the city limits, thereby keeping centralized power and direct influence over Rome. Senate meetings were filled with rituals that reflected the connection between Roman politics and religion. Before any deliberations could begin, a sacrifice had to be made to the gods, and only in places consecrated to the deities was the Senate allowed to assemble. Once gathered, a council, or the emperor, would open the session with a speech outlining the issues to be discussed. According to tradition, the highest-ranking senator spoke first, followed by those of lesser rank. Nevertheless, who usually sat between 2 consuls, could intervene at any time. His power was such that the emperor's approval was paramount for any senator wishing to run for a magistral post. As a result, a senator rarely dissented from the emperor's proposals, and, when he did, it was usually by absenting himself from a vote rather than directly opposing it. Aside from legislative and foreign policy issues, the Senate exerted a significant influence over the state's finances. No expenditure of public funds could be made without the Senate's authorization. This financial power granted the senators an influence that went beyond political decision-making, allowing them to greatly influence the very functioning of Roman civil government. Treasury control was a responsibility that required wisdom and prudence, as Rome's economic well-being depended on these decisions. The senators often had lengthy discussions and debates to ensure that the funds were put to the best possible use, at least from their viewpoint. As the day went on, the senator could also head to the public baths, a site not only for personal hygiene, but also for discussions and social gatherings. Among marble columns and heated pools, the affairs of the day could be discussed more informally, away from the forum formalities. Mealtimes, especially dinner, were important occasions for the senator to welcome guests to his home, as well as being an opportunity to consolidate alliances. Notwithstanding his power and prestige, a senator could be heavily indebted to his patron, and so he could use much of his working day to cater for him. A patron was usually an older, established senator who had played a pivotal role in that senator's life. Many young people who wanted to be senators did not begin their road to power with wealth or influence, since many did not hail from wealthy families. The patron usually financed the young man's studies, managed to secure a favorable marriage to a wife from an aristocratic family, and even helped seal his Senate appointment. For a young man with no means on his own, this help was absolutely essential. The patron thus not only opened doors, but virtually guided the young man through them. He used his influence to have the emperor appoint his protege to the Senate by a decree, cementing the young man's position as a senator. Naturally, this was not for free. As a result of this initial help, when a young man became a senator, he practically became his patron's slave and was indebted to him for his generosity. This relationship was to last a lifetime. The senator, now a client of his patron, contributed to his mentor's reputation and political interests. He could be called upon to help forge majorities in important votes, obstruct actions by opposing senators, or even engage in political blackmail to guarantee that the patron's interests were served. Moreover, the client senator often made financial contributions to the patron's expenses and worked to attract other senators to his mentor's cause. This allegiance was not just a matter of honor, but of survival. Any sign of ungratefulness or disloyalty could result in a swift and shattering downfall. A senator charged with disloyalty could find himself isolated, deprived of allies, and subject to constant political attacks, resulting in the devastation of his career and personal life. Under such conditions, even his wife would most probably ask for a divorce. This is why being grateful to his patron was so important, and a senator would be meeting with him almost daily to find out what his goals were. These client senators were regarded as low-ranking, and for that reason were responsible for settling less important matters, such as divorces and investments. But that did not mean they were going to remain that way forever. Supported by his patron, a young senator could also strive for even higher positions, such as the post of legate in the East, where he would enjoy total control over a region. This rank, appointed by the emperor himself, offered the senator the opportunity to amass military power and prestige. Yet, this authority was limited to a term of 3 to 4 years, a purposeful measure to prevent any senator from becoming a threat to the emperor. In contrast, a patron senator wielded a great deal of power in the Senate, often being a member of the emperor's advisory council. These high-ranking positions, despite their prestige, also came with a huge risk. A high-ranking senator was in the tricky position of always having to please the emperor at any cost. Emperor Hadrian once had 6 senators executed who displeased him, and they were probably high-ranking ones in the Senate. An emperor could also decide to oust a senator from the Senate by assigning him to a command of a garrison far from Rome that would not jeopardize his power. And, if a senator was deemed rebellious, he could be isolated or moved somewhere far from Rome and have his property seized. While the Senate did function with a high degree of autonomy, the emperor could intervene at any time. This meant that, for a senator, every speech and vote had to be carefully calculated, so as to not displease the sovereign. Most senators were actively seeking to please him by supporting his draft laws and political initiatives. However, this loyalty was not merely a question of duty, it was a question of survival. Roman history was riddled with examples of senators who had disgraced themselves by defying or displeasing the emperor. In an empire where the ruler's might was supreme, a single mistake could mean the difference between life and death. The emperor's choice of a successor was one of the most important moments between the Senate and the ruler. A wise emperor could ensure that his heir was not only accepted by the Senate, but also by the people of the land, and more importantly, by the legions. By appointing his successor as co-emperor before stepping down, the emperor sought to secure a smooth transition and avoid any challenge to his legacy. As far as the senators were concerned, accepting the emperor's chosen heir was almost a given. Even if some did question the choice, as in the case of Marcus Aurelius appointing his son, Commodus, the opposition rarely spoke out openly. If a candidate for emperor was supported by the legions, his ascension to the throne was virtually assured, and any opposition from the Senate would be quickly squashed. The senators preferred to be submissive and secure, accepting the emperor's decision. All in all, being a Roman senator was not something for everyone. Although it was a position of great power and responsibility, with many benefits, the dangers were also considerable, and a senator could be quickly removed if he was not useful to his superiors. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next one.